Good day to you, Americans! Welcome to Cheap Worms for Sale's video blog, also known as a vlog or vlog, depending on where you're from and how funny you speak. Today I'm going to show you how to properly feed your worms. So here we have my European night crawlers, and you will see that there are a few strips of some powdery looking substance. That is worm food, and not specifically worm food. All that is chicken feed. Yes, that's all you need to feed your worms, chicken feed. A lot of companies will sell, oh, we sell specialized ground up worm food and worm chow. Some companies call it worm chow. And normally, worm farmers will sell it as an upsell to their orders. So they'll say, oh yeah, I had a bag of worm chow for whatever. Chances are all you're getting is a bag of chicken feed, which at a feed store will cost you maybe $7 for a 50-pound bag, and they're putting it in little tiny Ziploc bags and charging you an extra $6. It's a ripoff. Don't do it. But now that my rant is over, chicken feed contains all the essential vitamins and nutrients that the worms need to grow and survive. This is the best way to plump them up quickly. If you want bait worms, you want to give them chicken feed. Another suitable alternative is rabbit food. They will eat rabbit food, and also pig feed. So if you give them, but not just any pig feed, you can't give them like mini pig food, but you can give them hog chow, and especially for breeding pigs. That's another great alternative. The way to feed them, you'll notice that it's in a nice cross. Sometimes I play tic-tac-toe. The correct way to feed them is in lines like this. And that's because the worms swarm the food. I have several bins in here. You'll see that the worms swarm the food. And what this does is the worms will swarm the food, and then underneath, I'm going to give you a lesson in worm reproduction and breeding habits right now. The worms breed where there's food, which means all the worms will swarm here. They'll meet each other, they'll breed, they'll lay eggs right under this food cluster. So what you want to do is every week when you feed, you want to move these lines. So this will be shifted over here, do a line here one week, and then another week do a line here, and then do another line going down here, and another one going down here. You want to alternate, that way you get an equal distribution of worm capsules and an even hatching rate, because you don't want it all to pile up. Another risk associated with feeding grain like this is that it heats. These grains, chicken feed, rabbit feed, any grain-based feed does heat up if it gets covered. So what you don't want to do is this. If it gets covered like that, it's going to heat up and it's going to kill your worms. You have to keep it exposed at all times. Now, I just fed these guys, and what we need to do now is after we feed the grain, it is good practice to take some powdered limestone, calcium carbonate, and sprinkle it over the worm bin. Why, you may ask? Because the reason that it heats is because of acidity. Calcium carbonate is the natural enemy of acidity, so you sprinkle this over the top of your worm bin, and that will counteract any acidity that begins to build up in the bin. And that's you should do this when feeding. But we're not exactly done yet. So we've laid out our worm food. We have laid out the acid neutralizer. And I'm just going to put this down momentarily. And we are going to do the next very important step, which is watering. So now we just have to water up and down the strands. This makes it easier for the worms to digest it. They're not going to eat the dry powder. You have to wet it down for them. They will eventually, but it's going to be much slower and really just ineffective. And if you don't wet it down so that they can eat it quickly, you run the risk of it turning moldy, and that's not good. Mold doesn't hurt worms, but it's certainly not a very good thing. So then, after that, you want to cover up the food. That way the worms will come to the top, because they're not going to come to the top in the dark. And if we peer over here in some of our other bins, you'll see that the worms are all coming to the surface and eating the... Let's just remove this. Now they're all going to hide because it's light, but it's kind of hard to see back there. But there are plenty of worms right at the surface, all eating their dip. So that is how you properly feed a worm bin. If you have any questions, contact us at www.support@cheapwormsforsale.com. We are happy to help you with any of your worm farming issues and or questions. We also sell worms, so please feel free to buy the worms from us. And I hope you were able to learn something valuable today. Thanks for watching.